filled out is done annually, is each, for purposes of permit compliance and so forth. What it shows is that in 25, and fiscal year or calendar year 25, the district met the requirements of the permit. The question regarding the funding is kind of a forward-looking one, and it basically says, do you anticipate that you're going to be able to comply? And we basically looked at what the requirements were, which were increased from the past permit, and we had consulted, or the program had consulted with EPA as they were writing the permit, indicating that even if we had the funding, we'd still have problems meeting the permit requirements, but they raised them anyway. So that's part of the issue, is that, with regard to the funding, there's issues related to the stormwater fee and other things of that nature that, have limited the amount of funding that we may be able to make available for purposes of complying. If that changes, that would obviously change, how the question was answered. But that question is a little bit different in the way it's posed than the rest of the report, which basically is a compliance report.
And I would add to that, that was one of the things that I learned about the permit itself. When this permit was issued, we provided comments back on that permit indicating that we would not be able to make the requirements of that permit. Those comments were sent to EPA at that time. They replied back with comments to all the comments they received, but they did not take our comments into consideration. The permit conditions that they gave us, the acreage that we needed to cover, stayed the same. I've had several conversations with the EPA Region 3 administrator about our permit, because we've been challenged from the very beginning, and explained to her this exact situation, that we're going to be very hard pressed to make these numbers, because we don't have the surface area in the district to make the numbers. And so we've been having those conversations. Her team has provided me with the actual replies to our comments, because I had not seen them, because we're kind of commingling all the comments that were received. I have not had a chance to look at that, because it came in kind of going to OPI things. So I have not looked at them, but we are in conversation with Region 3, because the issue to me is a bigger issue in that if we couldn't have made the numbers, why would you give us a permit that we could never have met anyway? And why didn't we work to get those numbers where they needed to get to? That was my concern.
Okay, so 2025, I'm gonna look backwards. We were saying that we met our MS4 requirements in 2025.
Correct.
2026, the answer is no.
The answer is we would have funding challenges to meet the requirements.
I hear you expanding out the challenges and saying we were never going to make 2026.
The requirements of the permit, after I looked at it, the acreage that needed to be covered, we were never going to, at the end of that 5-year period, we probably would not have made all the commitments in that permit. That was the comments that
we signed the permit. Are we a party to the permit?
The permit was issued by the EPA to the district.
But are we a party to it? Did we sign it? Did we?
Yes, it's a district permit.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So the permittee shall provide sufficient finances, staff, equipment, and support capabilities to implement the provisions of this permit, including not limited to the SWMP required herein. Lack of funding does not constitute a justification for non-compliance with the terms of this permit. We're the permittee, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We signed it.
Should have appealed it.
We didn't sign it, we issued it. Correct.
But we're the permittee.
Yes.
So last year's budget slashed our funding to be able to even meet this requirement. So last year, we talked about this at the hearing last year, when we were setting ourselves on a path to come out of compliance and not be able to meet this. So the mayor's budget took our stormwater permit review fund, which is kind of our workhorse for being able to fund these activities, and instead we're paying for street sweeping. Just moved it over to DPW. Technically, I guess you could say street sweeping could be an eligible MS4 expense. I would argue that the street sweeping across the entire city is not necessarily linked to our MS4 permit. But it's certainly not gonna be the top priority of what I would be using that fund for, and I don't think it's what anybody thought that fund would be used for. So we, the district, the permittee, have taken actions to take ourselves out of compliance. I understand if you wanna argue now, it was gonna be so hard to meet it anyway. I don't know if that's what I would have heard DOE arguing to me a year ago, before the budget came down. And I understand that may be the argument we're trying to make now, but there's no way. I mean, it's pretty easy, like, I mean, yes or no. Slashing our stormwater fund and our stormwater permit review fund and putting it towards street sweeping, did that have an impact on us, on our ability to meet in this one permit?
Yes.
Yeah. So, has the EPA taken any action yet? Not that I have a whole lot of confidence in this EPA right now, but have
That's
they taken
all.
any action?
No, that's why we've had, I started having those conversations with the Region 3 administrator several months ago to have the discussion about the permit as a whole. And that's when they provided me with the comments, because I had not seen them. And so we're going to continue to work with them on this. I said, was there an appeal process at the time? And we did not do that. But she's going to look at this with her water team at Region 3 in Philadelphia, and then we'll continue to have those conversations about our permit as a whole. And this is looking at it as a whole. We're halfway through the permit, and so we're looking at what needs and what has to happen, since we have, 2.5 years left on this permit.
Has the district ever faced litigation on our MS4 permit?
Not to my knowledge, we had been cited for a violation of our MS4 permit before, which was settled for the stormwater permit.
Do we run the risk of non-governmental litigation at some point of not meeting our MS4 requirement? Is that a potential legal action that could come against us?
There's citizen suit provisions in the Clean Water Act.
Right.
Potentially
Okay. Did DOE meet its federal grant match for the MS4 permit and the requirements
For 26?
for 26?
Yes, sir.
We heard pretty consistently from our public witnesses last week a lot of concern about this. We talked about it at the budget hearing last year, so I'm not entirely surprised this is where we are. I'm not surprised we knew this is where we're gonna be. It feels like we're kind of banking on an EPA that, at least under this current administration, probably isn't gonna focus a whole lot on making sure that there's good water quality, and I don't think they will, but at the same time, we also have a federal administration that would love to ding the district at any chance it can. So I think we're facing an exposure both to the federal side with EPA, and I do believe we have an exposure from the citizens' ability to bring a suit to the district. They've all but said that's what's gonna happen, so I would brace ourselves and prepare that that's very likely what's gonna come. Is there any, as we look at the budget formulation right now, is there any ability to advocate for the type of funding that you would need to get back into compliance?
Yes, sir. So, as mentioned in the hearing, in terms of the stormwater fee, we did research on our stormwater fee. Again, hasn't been raised in a significant number of years, but we looked at the surrounding area in the region and what those fees look like, and have provided information downtown to say, this is what we would like to see happen, and that's incorporated that part of our budget submission.
And
Just real fast, when you're saying sending downtown, I'm assuming you mean this building here.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, making sure I understood which one.
No, I was just gonna say, we're not out of compliance, so you say get back into compliance, we're not out of compliance yet. Like I said, the difference between that first question about potential funding problems and, our actual compliance is, we were in compliance in 25, we're not out of compliance.
Is that only because we just haven't actually decided that's the determination yet? I mean, when we asked the same question at last year's budget hearing, will this budget mean that we're out of compliance? The answer to last year's budget hearing was yes. So we haven't checked the box necessarily to say we're out of compliance. So I think legally, you can say we're not out of compliance yet, because that just hasn't been a finding yet. But I mean, we acknowledge we're gonna be out, you just told me, like, we're gonna be out of compliance.
We're gonna have a hard time meeting the requirements of the program.
So let's not dance around it, like, we're out of compliance. Like, the box hasn't been checked yet, so I understand, as a general counsel, you can't say you're out of compliance yet, but the rest of us in the room can say we're out of compliance.